Hails and welcome to Rauta's brand new Mayhem review. Now this is not a new album, but an MCD of peculiar nature. It's kind of like Split, it's kind of like MCD. Technically speaking, it's a little bit both. Now this is most certainly one of those releases people didn't see coming. First of all, it's not pure Mayhem release in the terms of having quite a few cover songs, but then again, it's not really what we would say a proper release in the terms of releasing just new songs. I'll try to explain, but first let's take a look at this particular digipack version of the release. This one actually goes as two names, the first one being Atavistic Black Disorder and the second name being Kommando. So it's technically speaking this one / this one. Makes a sense, does it not? Well, you will get the idea when we go deeper into the release. And pardon for the somewhat weird colors, it's sunlight trying to destroy all the proper things we have here when we're trying to do some black metal listening and sweating like pigs, but it is what it is. And here we go. This one was released a few days earlier, early July 2021 release, and it's made of 7 tracks, 3 Mayhem tracks, which you can pretty much see here, and then 4 cover songs. They are all punk covers, so that makes the nature of the release rather interesting. Some people already went so much as to disrespect the whole release, like, why bother to do punk covers? I mean, it's Mayhem, come on. And some people went as far as to say it's kind of useless because of all these 3 new Mayhem tracks. 2 of these have been already released as a bonus version, or say collector's item or Asian version of Demon, the album that came out late 2019, almost 2 years ago. Technically speaking, that is, this album has only 1 new track. Because of these 3 tracks, 2 of them were already released, but not your average Western world version of Demon. So, depending on which version you're comparing this to, this one either has 1 new track or 3 new track. But they are really good, and in my opinion, that alone justifies the release of this whole deal here. Now, when it comes to these 4 bonus tracks, which are then again punk covers, it gets a little bit more interesting because they certainly don't sound like typical Mayhem. Now the deal here is, it's much like when Slayer did their Undisputed, what the hell it's called? I was actually like wondering what to go. Anyway, when Slayer did their punk cover album, like 1996 or so, you know, so many people, I don't know actually how people reacted back then, but later on people were like calling that Undisputed Attitude, like, yeah, it's really cool, Slayer is like paying homage to these old bands, paying their own tribute, and, you know, showing where their roots are. Now when Mayhem does the same some 25 years later, people are like, why Mayhem is doing that? In my opinion, this kind of shows 2 things. First of all, it kind of proves that even bands like Mayhem, which then again started already in the early 80s, even though they're most known for what their activities and releases based on what happened in the 90s, you know, it kind of shows that these are the kind of generation, people of that age that have their roots in so much more than just metal. Be it thrash metal or classic heavy metal, or even bands like, you know, Black Sabbath, that is kind of a doom predecessor or metal predecessor in the first place. So having their roots going deeper into just metal soil or ground is kind of actually refreshing. Also, it's not like your typical black metal bands opt to cover bands that are playing something else than metal. Most bands, especially the newer kind of a safe bet, like, okay, there comes this band and they play a Marduk cover. Boring. Or there comes this band and decides to play Mayhem or Dark Throne or Burzum cover. Also very boring, because usually the original versions of these cover songs are just better. And when a black metal band does a black metal cover, well, it doesn't really make that much of a sense. So instead of Mayhem doing the kind of a let's copy some Battery song or let's copy some Celtic Frost or Hellhammer or Merciful Fate kind of a thing, they go into different direction. And while I am not a punk fanatic and thus defending their will to do so, I kind of have to respect it because it makes this release more like a fan service and a middle finger against all commercial accusations. I mean, this kind of a release isn't exactly the most commercial release of them all. First of all, like a label guy told me years and years ago, selling MCDs is not very good business because people are more into full albums. And then again, even less so when you have half the tracks being cover songs, especially punk covers, which is not the most, say, fertile soil for metalheads, even less with black metal people. Now, there are lots of old school people who will understand and who will like that, you know, Mayhem, among others, are doing these kind of covers because it also shows some balls and courage to do things differently. Some people are gonna get annoyed, but it is what it is. I mean, what can you say? Artist is an artist, both good and bad. But let's be honest about it. The meat and potato on this release is not the selection of cover songs, the so-called B-side. It's very much these 3 tracks, Voces ab Alta, Black Glass, Communion, and Everlasting Dying Flame. And these 3 tracks, roughly some 16 minutes or so, you know, they are the real deal. For example, Black Glass Communion songs alone is, in my opinion, one of the best tracks what Mayhem has put out since the Mysteries Dom Satanas. I know it's a lot to be said, and I know, or I'm pretty sure that most people won't fully agree with me, and that's fine. I don't expect people to go full circle jerk. I'm just saying that, for me, the Mysteries Dom Satanas is one of the best black metal albums of all time. But since that, the Mayhem was not exactly my cup of tea so much. More like a hit and miss here and there with Grand Declaration of War, etc., until Demon came out, which I really liked, and it's my second favorite Mayhem album of all times. Now, these 3 tracks basically continue where that album left off. They are probably some kind of a leftover songs from that recording sessions. I'm not fully sure about that, but they sound certainly like that. And whatever the story is, actually, I don't really care. What matters to me is that these are really 3 goddamn good tracks. So for me, these 4 other tracks, these covers, are more like bonus content. So it doesn't really matter and that doesn't really affect how I like these 3 meat and potatoes tracks, because these are the reason why people would go for this. These are the tracks why you either like or dislike this whole MCD. So it doesn't really matter if there are these punk covers. I doubt there are any person in the world who would buy this MCD just for the sake of cover songs. Maybe people are gonna buy this because they want to, you know, complete their collection and all, but they don't do that, you know, in the terms of, say, buy for the sake of cover songs. Anyway, be it as may, this one is a very interesting release all in all. I would say it's a good MCD, not the best by the band, but definitely a good addition to the already existing discography. Buy it or hate it, I don't really care, but I think it's a good release and I hope you will check it out. Thanks for watching this review, take care and bye bye.